Well, guys, I hate to say it, but it's getting a lot worse out there. I mean, much, much worse at a faster pace than even I thought it would. For a long time, we've been predicting the demise of our country here on this channel, and we've been showing and pointing to signs that are apparent for people that have eyes to see and ears to hear. But so many people are blinded by the propaganda that, you got to give it to them, man. The left and the communists, they teamed up and they've got the perfect propaganda machine that totally works and has totally I don't know, I'm trying to find it's captured so many people, especially younger people that haven't really had a lot of life experiences and stuff like this. These people will defend their communism to their graves. And it's very worrying to me. It's a clash of ideologies that's happening all around the world, but I think the focal point is going to be here in the United States, because I believe we're the last bastion of freedom, true freedom, and the last shot at true freedom on the face of God's green earth. So that's where I stand. I think if the United States falls, the rest of the world will, it may be a slow descent, but the rest of the world will soon fall as well. So I've been gathering up stories since the last video I made, and quite frankly, a couple of times I could have went ahead and put a video out, but I thought, no, I'm just going to wait, because it just feels like so much stuff is happening. It's hard to really grab on to the most important issues. So I went through all the bookmarks that I've been saving for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Actually, it hasn't been that long. So I went through all the bookmarks that I've been saving for the last week or so since I spoke to you guys last about the egregious trial that Trump was placed in, the lawfare that they're using against Trump. It's clearly lawfare. It's clearly election interference. And yet I had multiple people coming in, leftists, softheads, libtards, coming into my comments and saying that, oh no, I'm wrong about everything. Trump's guilty, blah, blah, blah. Look at him. He looks guilty. It literally is becoming the court of the movie Idiocracy. Go check it out if you don't know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, Idiocracy is becoming a documentary about the way the United States is falling down. Just every trap we could fall into, we're falling into it. And we're not even really falling into it. We're being led into it. So it makes it even worse. But I've gathered up a bunch of different news articles. We're going to cover a lot of topics here today. I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as I can, but these are headlines that I think you guys need to be paying attention to, because, they're important. We're going to talk about the COVID BS and the tyrannical COVID rules and guidelines. We're going to talk about the Biden campaign. We're going to talk about civil war and who on the left is saying certain things about civil war. We're going to talk about the puppet master, Barack Obama, and why he actually, side note here, why did Barack Obama, the first American president, ex-president in modern history, why did he decide to keep that office there in Washington, D.C. when no other president in the past has done that? George W. Bush didn't do that. H.W. didn't do that. Clinton didn't do that. Reagan didn't do that. Carter didn't do that. On and on and on and on. No one did it except for Barack Obama. He's the only one. Or Barry Soetoro, I think is his proper name. But anyway, regardless of that, the guy kept in office there for obvious reasons, because he wanted to keep his thumb on the Democrat apparatus. And he's done a very fine job of that, so we'll be talking about him. We're going to be talking about the bombshell that shows 1.3 million potential illegal voters on one state's voter rolls. So you're telling me there's no election interference or election fraud, and that 2020 was the most secure election in my lifetime? Bullshit. Anytime the media is telling you, look right, you better look left, and vice versa. If they're saying everything's fine, all hell's about to break loose. So anyway, let's get into this COVID news here, because this is bombshell, guys. When I saw this, I couldn't believe it. So I'm sure, as many of you have seen, if you're astute and you're paying attention to what's going on, Fauci has been getting grilled for like the last couple of weeks by the Senate, and I don't know if the House actually had some special meetings with him or what, but several different senators have been grilling Fauci on all this stuff about COVID. Well, now Fauci admits he made up the tyrannical COVID guidelines, including child masking and social distancing. So they were based on mere assumptions, not science. That is what Fauci admitted. Many of us were saying those things during the height of the COVID, and many of us were banned for even suggesting that it was not scientific. You should be offended. You should be madder than a hornet. You should be pissed off, man. If you're not pissed off, it's because you've been getting pissed on and they've been telling you it's raining outside and you believe them. I'm trying to tell you the truth here. Listen to this. Oxford University. Oxford University, big time university. They say, based on their studies done by actual scientists, myocarditis and pericarditis only appear after COVID vaccination. Yeah, that's right. Only after COVID vaccination, not after COVID infection. So, weren't a lot of us saying that? I know I got banned several times on YouTube for saying exactly that there was a connection, a correlation between the COVID injection, the vaccine, and myocarditis, pericarditis, or whatever the hell it's called, and all these other heart issues. But yet, we got banned for that. Why is that? Well, I want to take a little side tour here for a second. Somebody came into my comments, and they actually wrote up a really great comment. In one of my videos, I was complaining about how there is no free speech here on YouTube and in other social media sites. And this guy took a very, I would say, libertarian position, and he was saying that, and I even said that in that video where I was criticizing their policies. I said, the libertarian side would say that, these are private companies, they have every right to basically post or not post whatever they want to do. And I would agree with that, or tend to agree with that more, except for a lot of these places have become the town square. Like YouTube, Facebook, all these social media sites have kind of become the town square. I didn't make it this way. It's just the way it happens to be these days. And all those places were banning people for what they called medical misinformation at the time during the height of the COVID. I know you guys remember it, especially you people that are like me and were trying to inform others about what you thought was going on. I never presented myself as a medical expert or a doctor or anything like that. I just presented the facts as I read them from what other doctors and other scientists were saying outside of the accepted government narrative. And anytime you questioned anything that wasn't inside the accepted government narrative, you were banned. So to that person, I replied back to him. I said, hey, that was actually a great comment, and I normally would agree with you 100% on what you're saying, that YouTube and other places, or private property is what he was talking about. You don't have to actually have free speech there. They can set the rules, and I do agree with that. But when the government compels those companies to ban certain people, now that is a violation of free speech. So hopefully that's clear, and that's what I'm talking about. When you're not allowed to come on here and question certain things because they don't go with the government narrative, and the government has been caught trying to compel these organizations to ban certain people and certain ideologies, then now you have a problem. You have a federal government using a proxy like YouTube to pick and choose what the narrative of the day is going to be. That is a problem. That is a violation of the First Amendment, no doubt about it, because the government's involved. If YouTube or Facebook had made that decision on their own without any government influence, then I wouldn't be able to say this, but they didn't do that, and it's provable. So let's move on. So basically, to summarize the whole COVID thing, pretty much everything we all thought and we were all suspicious of turned out to be 100% true. You just have to wait long enough for these assholes to come out and tell the truth. I mean, I can't believe it. After all this time, after all the moaning and groaning about, oh, your kid has to wear a face diaper all the time, he finally admitted it. It was all just based on assumption. I mean, the guy ought to be in prison. We ought to have Nuremberg 2.0 trials, but we're not going to have that as long as you got people like Joe Biden and Barack Obama pulling the strings here. So listen to this. Biden campaign spokesman. He says, Donald Trump is a threat. Joe Biden will end once and for all. What do you think he meant by that? I wonder if this campaign spokesman is getting a visit from the Secret Service, like they would be if the roles were reversed. Okay? You smell what I'm stepping in? I don't want to talk too much about that sort of a topic because YouTube will surely ban me for that sort of deal. But hopefully you guys smell what I'm stepping in. It's a big pile of stinking communist bullshit's what it is. Anyway, moving on. Crazy lady Maxine Waters suggests that Trump is pushing America towards a civil war. Oh, really? Is Trump the one that's currently president? Is he the one that's weaponizing the Department of Justice against MAGA people and against Trump and against, using the DOJ to implement and selectively enforce the laws that they want? That's what's going on, guys. We're supposed to have equal protection under the law. It's one of the most fundamental rights we all have. And the Biden administration, the New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg, that judge, all these people that are involved with this case with Trump are taking a dump right on that, on equal protection. And it's not just that example. There are so many others. So many others. I mean, for example, they say there's no election interference. Well, it turns out that Joe Biden ordered Anthony Blinken, I believe it was, to suppress the information about the Hunter Biden laptop right before the 2020 election. So, and many people that were polled said if they'd have known that about the Hunter Biden laptop and all the stuff, the connections with Burisma and everything else that the Democrats and the Democrat apparatus called the mainstream media were suppressing, that they would have voted a different way. So you're telling me there's no election fraud that happened during 2020? Oh, by the way, back to censorship for a moment. There was a time I could not say Joe Biden stole the 2020 election. And I would argue that even now when I say it, even though I'm allowed technically to say it, they're flagging me. They're putting me in some special category of right-wing extremist, super ultra MAGA, even though I'm not super ultra MAGA. I'm a conservative. If anything, Trump's not conservative enough for me. There probably isn't anybody in the Republican Party that's conservative enough for me, at least not currently. So, yeah, this shit pisses me off, makes my blood boil. Let me know down in the comments. How does this make you feel when you're watching your country be screwed, man, right before your eyes? Every time I turn on the news, my country's getting screwed again, and no one's doing anything about it. And very few people even come out and say anything about it because they're scared to. Listen to this. Radical commie Barack Obama comes out of the shadows and announces Joe Biden's Palestinian-Israel policy. Democrats are no longer hiding who is really calling the shots. So Barack is not even just giving it to the messenger anymore. He's just coming out and saying it himself. The man that said, I don't know who he was being interviewed by, but you can find this quote. Barack Obama said that if he could run a third term from a basement as a shadow president, something along those lines, I'm paraphrasing, you can find that quote where Barack Obama says if he could run a third term, he would. And if Biden gets it again, he's going to get a fourth term. And who knows how many more, because they're going to break the system, guys. They're going to break it. That's what they're trying to do right now. It's amazing to me that as much, I thought the same thing. I have many days I wake up with the same feeling. I'm like, where have I felt this before? I felt like this before. It was during Barack Obama's term. What was that? 2008 through 2002 terms, through 2016. Barack Obama, the whole time, every single day, it was like everything all at once. And that's why I know Obama is running this shit show. Because it's the same thing. I have the same feeling. It's always, you never know which way to look because they're fucking you 6 ways to Sunday. And by the time you figure out which one to focus on, they fucked you 3 different times over here. So yeah, am I mad about it? Yeah, I'm mad about it. I'm ready to take my country back. And if we don't win in November, and when I say we, I mean the conservatives, the Republicans. If there's not a massive, mega, MAGA tsunami of red wave in November that for once and for all tells the Democrats, hey, you go pound sand. We don't like your policies. If that doesn't happen and they steal another election, it's done. Katie bar the door. The country is over. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if we're even going to make it to the damn election the way these people are hell-bent on getting us involved in World War III and possibly a civil war. Listen to this shit. You don't believe me that they're stealing shit, that they're rigging the election? Here it is. Breaking. Arizona GOP files bombshell lawsuit against corrupt Secretary of State after discovering from 500,000 to 1.3 million illegal voters on the state's voter roll. 500,000 to 1.3 million that they just suddenly discovered. How many of those are dead? How many of those are, illegals that aren't even citizens of the United States? I don't know. Did they vote in 2020? Yep. Bet they did. This article doesn't say that. I don't need the article to say that. I bet you money they did. Was there election fraud in 2020? Over the top election fraud. You know how I know? Because the mainstream media was trying to cover it up every single chance they got, and anybody that said anything different got banned on social media. And that's how I know. The truth is not afraid of the light. The truth can have the light shine down on it and still be, right there before your eyes. Lies and deceit and propaganda have to hide in the shadows. Unbelievable what they're doing to our country. Meanwhile, there's, half the population or more that are so soft-headed that they're allowing this to happen, and they will vote the same way they voted last time because they're politically retarded. That's probably one of the forbidden words. I don't know anymore. Breaking. 11 convicted felons face felony charges in Tennessee for election fraud cases for illegally voting in the 2020 and 2022 elections. I know what you're thinking. That's only 11 people. Why did I bring this up? My point is, when you hear these liberal communist commentators saying there is no proof of any election fraud in 2020 and this was the most fair election in history, when they're saying shit like that, it means they're trying to hide something. And there is proof. There may not be overwhelming proof because, let's face it, companies like Dominion, they know how to cover up their tracks, okay? They got the DOJ and the FBI and the CIA in their back pocket because they were probably, partly designed by the CIA, I would imagine. Anyway, moving on, or I'm never going to get through this crap. It's just a shit show looking at anything that's going on in our country today. Here you go. Joe Biden says, finally, let me preface this, okay? If you haven't been paying attention for the last 3.5 years, the entire time, Joe Biden, Kareem Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is, Commie Harris, all the other commies that are in Biden's administration, intentionally, they've all been saying that the border is not open. That's just Republican disinformation. There's no emergency down there. And until the last couple of 2 or 3 months, they refused to even acknowledge anything was going on. But now that they're in an election year, okay? And people from all around the country are noticing things are changing, not for the better. And so now Biden says, I need to secure the border so we can be a land that welcomes immigrants. You can't make this shit up. This is the biggest, most in-your-face example of gaslighting or virtue signaling combined that I've ever seen. Had to have been designed by Barack Obama. Listen to this. Don't be fooled. Biden's new executive order does not secure the border. Here's what it really does. It's a virtue signal so that he can tell all his people out there that are questioning what's going on the border, I did something. See, I tried to do something way back then when there was that bipartisan bill that was going to solve all our border problems. I was ready to sign on to that deal, but those mean old racist Republicans, they didn't want to sign on to it. Leaving out the fact that it had hundreds of billions of dollars tied into foreign wars and continuing Biden's foreign wars and pushing us closer and closer to the edge, to the precipice of nuclear annihilation every single day. In the past, the Democrats had a whole anti-war movement inside their party. I remember George W. Bush was practically ran out of D.C. on a pike because of Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan. Where are those people now? Where are they? Their silence is deafening. It's unbelievable. The hypocrisy. To borrow a line from Doc Holliday, one of the best movies of all time, Tombstone. Go check it out if you've never seen it. He says, I think he says, my hypocrisy knows no bounds, but I'm going to use it in a different way. Their hypocrisy knows no bounds. So his whole executive order that he's been touting for this last week, and the media has been saying, look, he's our savior, he's fixing the border, on and on and on. He's Joe Biden, he's the best. Oh yeah, he's got dementia. Oh yeah, he's wandering around. Oh yeah. Side note, he supposedly pooped his pants at the D-Day memorial today, right next to Macron. You can see him going. Supposedly the leader of the free world, the most powerful country on the face of God's green earth, is shitting his pants potentially next to Macron. Unbelievable. So that's at least the second or third time that I've heard about, yeah, Mr. Biden poopy pants. Unbelievable. And they will defend him. Because he's the ultimate Manchurian candidate. I've said it all along. He's the ultimate Manchurian candidate. He's brain dead. He's mashed potato brains. They can make him do or say anything that they put on the teleprompter, including reading the things on the teleprompter he's not supposed to be reading. But they'll try to say Trump has dementia. Look at Trump. Oh, he forgot his wife's name. He forgot who he was running against, on and on and on. When Biden comes out every single time he opens his mouth or he's walking away from the camera, you can tell someone's in his ear telling him, hey, keep walking, and the media will say something, and he'll be like, you guys have all seen the dementia stare, probably. We've all had people in our families and stuff, elderly people that end up getting that stuff, dementia, and it's terrible. It's terrible. And they're using that man. Not that I feel sorry for him, because he's been a scumbag his entire life, a tool of the Communist Democrat Party. He's part of the reason we're in this terrible state of affairs that we're in right now. 47 years. I mean, my God, people. My God. We've got to learn the lessons of career politicians. They're no good. Get them out. We need to get the money out. We need to get the lobbyists out. We need to kick out all the special interest groups and all that crap and go back to we the people. So if it's not bad enough with everything else going on in our country and all the lies that they're telling us on a daily basis, listen to this. World War III watch. NATO is drawing up plans to deploy American soldiers to the front line, potentially to fight Russia in an all-out war. Yeah. Yep. I mean, all along the way, Biden has said, we're not going to send tanks over there. And then they send tanks over there. He says, we're not going to send American weapons that could be long range and used against Russia. Then they send those over there. And then they give them permission to do it. Now they're openly striking Russian targets with U.S. weapons. Putin's coming out and saying, hey man, I consider this an act of war. I'm going to think about, arming some of your nearby neighbors and stuff, neighboring countries, with some weapons. So we may be facing a Cuban Missile Crisis Part 2 before it's all said and done. Thanks to Joe Biden and his meddling. Thanks to all the stuff that goes all the way back to 2014 when his boss, who is still his boss, got everything messed up in Ukraine. They had the color revolution. They brought in Victoria Nuland. They had George Soros throwing money around like you wouldn't believe because he was going to make money on both ends. It's always these same evil bastards that are behind all this crap. And it all leads to, right now, it points to Joe Biden. And that's exactly how the Democrats have structured it so that they can point their fingers at him one day and be like, oh, we didn't know he had that, he was that far gone. He had dementia like that. Oh, our bad. We didn't know, man. Sorry. Meanwhile, the nation's burning. Meanwhile, the dollar is collapsing. Meanwhile, fuel prices are high. The border's wide open. Report, World War III watch again. Ukraine uses U.S. weapons to strike inside Russia. We just talked about that a little bit. Unbelievable. Every time he says he's not going to escalate Biden, he says, oh, I'm not going to do this. That'll escalate things. That surely would be World War III. And then he does it later. He sends in the F-16s, which could have nukes on them. Hundreds of billions of U.S. tax dollars have gone over there for what? To get us embroiled in World War III. I mean, this is not good. Russia and China are buddy-buddy right now, even more so since Biden came into office, okay? The Chinese, last time I checked, they have something like 1.5 billion people. The Russians have quite a few people, quite a few weapons that they've been stockpiling. I mean, that's a pretty formidable force. Might not end too well for the good old United States of America, which is exactly the New World Order plan. Do you see it? Do you see the 40,000 foot view of how this all ends and how it plays into the globalist agenda? It's all part of their plan. You know, let's talk about this for a second on the way out, just to show you how far gone our country is, how much the crime, especially in these blue, liberal-controlled cesspool cities. If you live in one and you value your life or your family's life, you should get the fuck out of them right now. I'm not sugarcoating it anymore. Move away if you value your life and your property and you want to have a good life. Maybe live out in the suburbs or something. Get the fuck out of that city while you can. Listen to this. Father of 4 executed as gunman indiscriminately fires at random cars in gun-controlled California. So even if the man wanted to, he couldn't defend himself and shoot back. Instead, he's just like a fish in a barrel getting shot at. Father of 4, man, executed, gone. Those kids will grow up, guess where? Liberal cesspool, California, where they'll be indoctrinated to become perfect little communists. And eventually they'll be like, well, you know, your dad, he had a lot of white privilege, so he probably deserved to get executed in the middle of the street like that. Think I'm kidding? They justify this crap all the time. Last one here on my list of horrific things that are going on. Signs that the United States of America is on our last legs. We're not going. We've gone to hell in a handbasket. And the people that are in control right now want us to stay there. We can get out, but it's going to take a miracle. It's going to take all of us becoming we the people again and caring about our own individual rights and liberties and fighting for them to the death, man. Liberty or death, all those things. That might sound badass, but I mean, when someone else says it, but do you live it? Do you actually believe it? Rhetorical question. Don't answer it in the comments or you'll be on their list. Last one here. This doesn't happen to me often, but this brought a tear to my eyes to see how far our country has gone. Chicago woman loses unborn baby after teens attack her. They kick her in the stomach and repeatedly yell, "We own the street." 2 teens were caught though. So justice is going to be swift and served, right? Because you do the crime, you do the time. That's what the Democrats have been saying all week. But in Chicago, they probably have one of these George Soros appointed district attorneys. And he slapped them on the wrist with misdemeanor battery, even though they killed an unborn baby. That's the double standard in our system right now that's going on all around the country. Mind your P's and Q's, guys. Stay the hell out of those liberal cesspool cities if you don't want to end up getting murdered or, you know, having your pregnant wife lose her unborn baby. And the husband was there. He got his ass kicked too. It was like a whole gang of these teens. And they caught 2 of them, slapped him on the wrist with a misdemeanor. We're spiraling, guys. Some of us see it, many of us don't. I'm going to say 75% of people just bebopping along like nothing's ever going to change. It's changing right before your eyes. And it's, you know, it's one of those things that it's hard to explain it, but I guess it's sort of like aging. You know, I look at myself in the mirror, you know, I'm 48 years old now. I see wrinkles and stuff that I didn't used to have, but you don't notice them right when they pop out, right? You notice them after they're already there, after the damage is already done. Okay? That's what's going on here. Except for some of us can see through it a little bit and we can kind of plan and prepare for what's coming. I'm telling you guys, what I'm seeing, everything that I'm seeing and feeling in my gut, in my spirit, in my soul, in my brain, from the research that I've done, there are very few ways out of this. And there are no ways out of this that don't take a lot of really hard work by each and every one of us. And most of us don't want to do that hard work anymore. So it looks more and more like the 45 communist goals that we've talked about extensively here on my channel have all come true. And the American people, to my great disappointment, seem to be going along to get along and afraid to cause any stir, afraid to cause any ruckus, afraid of everything. afraid to say anything, because if they say the wrong thing on social media, they may not get a job in the future because of that. We talk about China's social credit score with great disdain here on my channel anyway. I mean, it's a thing that I don't want. Digital currency, all that stuff that could track you and stuff like this. And yet we already have it here. It's just not called the same thing. So guys, I'm sorry to blackpill you. I'm sorry to say that it's over, but I mean, at a certain point, you look at things and you look around you and you go, there's just, I mean, I don't see any way of getting out of this death spiral we're in. We're in an emergency crash landing with no pilot. Or I guess we have a pilot, but he has dementia and he's wandering around the back aisles of the plane. Meanwhile, we're rapidly approaching the point of impact. And people are sitting there in their seats. They're surfing on their phones. They're laughing at cat videos. They're going about life like nothing's wrong. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. We're about to crash land. Brace yourselves. Buckle up. Grab your oxygen mask. Do everything you can before you hit. Because once you hit, it's too late to do anything to prepare then. So guys, in summary, prepare yourselves for much harder times, much more expensive everything. Inflation is not going to stop. Most likely they're going to steal the election again in 2024 and continue this globalist agenda of destroying the greatest country on the face of the earth. Because why do they have to destroy us? Because we're the only thing in their way. That's why. So, yeah, we're pretty well screwed, guys, but as always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end, and I hope you do too. Feels like it's coming soon.